Okay, we're going to go ahead and look at now graphing. What does it look like to graph equations by hand? And so we left off looking at Desmos, right? Using Desmos to show you. You can do that. Always use Desmos to check your work. And so look in the rest of the lesson book for lesson 3.1. Take a look here. There's an outline of how we graph. You basically follow the rule. This equation or this function, right? And is what we use to then plot points. And so you pick x values. You have an x and a y, or an x value, and then you plug in those x values into the equation. And again, we choose various ones. And as you substitute the values into the equation, you get an output, which is your y value, or the value for the function. And you end up making an ordered pair, and that ordered pair is what you plot. And when you plot those points, you end up with the pattern of the equation. And that, again, this is a linear equation, so you end up with a line. And so that's what it would look like there. You look at the next examples here. Again, I've done just a couple to show you. Again, I'm not going to show you do all the way. I'll let you do it. But you can see you can just plug in a couple of the values here. And do -1 here. Oh, yeah, there it is. So -1, when I plug in 0, you get 2. This times 0 equals 0 plus 2, and you get that. Here you end up with, when you plug -1 in, you end up with 3 2/3, which would be somewhere up here. You can see we would end up a point right there. So you can see it forms a pattern. If you don't get those patterns, then you know you did something wrong with the point. So that's an important thing there, that you end up with a pattern here. So that's what you would do to graph linear equations. And then to graph exponential functions, similar process. You pick some points, right? Keep in mind what the shape is going to be, and you select various points. And you will use a calculator to do this, because we haven't really fully gone over what negative exponents are. But when you plug them in, a negative exponent, it means a reciprocal. And so it's just another way of writing a fraction. So 2 to the -5 is the same as the reciprocal of 2 to the 5, 1 over 2 to the 5. So you end up with these values here. Again, very similar to what we've done before, right? Negative exponents are a different rule than positive exponents. 2 to the power of 3 means 2 times 2 times 2. Here, -5 means reciprocal. So that's important to recognize about negative powers here. Give reciprocals of the positive. So once you have that, then you have the points. But again, I would plug this into Desmos so you can check your work. And if you notice in Desmos carefully, let me get back to Desmos, you can drag on Desmos and get different points. You see how you can follow along, and it gives you different points on the graph, so you can have an idea if you're doing it right. And it also identifies some key points there. So just keep that in mind for Desmos, that you can drag along and you'll see the different values, see the ordered pairs where they belong, okay? So make sure you're aware of that. And so the next thing would be, here's an example. Here's this equation. There's the values you should get. Double check that you can get that. Use a calculator. Use Desmos. You can see when you plot it, you can see that shape that we end up with right there. You can see that pattern, that exponential shape. And then to graph quadratic equations, same process. Pick some x values, plot each one, substitute in, get an answer, and you end up with your ordered pairs, and then you plot them. So you can see how they get substituted in. Moving through the other ones here, the answers to them. As you plug these numbers in, you get these answers. Again, when you plug, be careful with the calculator. So when I plug in -2, I use parentheses, -2 squared minus 1. So in this case, that's 4 minus 1. Be careful in your calculator. Make sure you type this in correctly. A lot of times you don't put the parentheses around the -2 and you end up with the wrong answer. So be careful with that one right there. So make sure you can reproduce these points, so then you end up with that parabola shape. So the rest of them are just to finish. Practice on your own. Use Desmos to check your answers. But you can see as you go through these here, there's the examples, and getting close to the discussion one. I won't show the answer to that one. You'll be left for that. But you're plugging in points here. And so I'll just let you slowly so you can pause that and see that. I'm just showing you an example there. Plug in, how you plug into for the quadratic there. Okay, that's it.